Hi gang, welcome back to the Base for YouTube channel. It's Craig here. We're putting a bunch of these movement videos out. This one is one that's not a follow along, it's one I'm just going to explain the movements to you. We're looking at improving our overhead position. So it's important that when we address overhead mobility that we're not just passively stretching if we're going into lifting. So when we're talking about improving overhead position, we're not only creating more space, but we're trying to strengthen the position as well. So all these exercises, these are ones you will need equipment for. We've got a kettlebell, we've got a bar, a rack and a bench. So this one you will need to do in a gym. This one would be ideally done before a workout if we were going to go into any kind of snatching or pressing overhead work, anything that requires loading your overhead position. This would be a great one you can do beforehand. Don't forget guys, like and subscribe to the channel and then share this with anybody who you think may benefit from having a better overhead position. Okay team, I've got 4 movements for you. These are all aimed at strengthening and improving the overhead position. So either creating more space and strengthening the overhead position. With all of these, it's important that you are contracting at the end range. So we're going to go into the end range of a stretch, or almost the end range of a stretch, and it's up to you to create tension. So we're contracting and strengthening that position as we work through. So for example, I'll show you the first one is an overhead rig stretch. I'm going to place my hand up on the rig of a straight arm. I'll show you from this side. And then I'm going to adjust my torso by leaning forward. So if you look at the angle from my hand to my shoulder to my hip is the equivalent of me being stood in an overhead position. So I'm pulling my rib cage down, pushing my shoulders past the arm to almost 100% of my range of motion. And then from that, I'm going to press my hand into the rig. So I press really hard, create tension, hold for about 5 seconds. And then when I relax, I move slightly further, work through 10 reps of that. I'll just press and then relax. And you can see I move a little bit further. I'm not faking that. That's actually me gaining more range overhead. But because when we're at that end range, we're contracting, we're not just mobilizing, we're strengthening the end range of motion. So hand on the rig, get into an overhead position, press into the rig, hold for 10 seconds, relax for 5 seconds, push a bit further, 10 seconds, 5 seconds off. We're going to apply that same pattern to all of the movements. So overhead rig stretch is our first one. Second one we're going to do on our bench, this is both arms at the same time. We're going to get our upper back onto the bench and pull our rib cage down. Then we're going to use the kettlebell to pull the arms into a deep overhead position, trying to get the elbows as far back as we can. What we're going to do is we're going to pull against that force. So as we pull forwards, that's the same thing as us contracting at end range. Hold for 10 seconds, then we relax, the kettlebell goes a bit further, pull and relax. I'll show you a couple reps. So upper back on the bench, keep my arms bent. I'm going to lower the kettlebell past down, but I'm being careful not to let my ribs flare. I'm pulling my rib cage down, let the kettlebell pull my hands in. When I get to my end range, I pull against the kettlebell, hold for 10 seconds, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And as I relax, it pulls a little bit further. But I don't let my rib cage position change. Pull again, and relax. Pull again, and relax. And I'm going to work through 10 reps of that same thing. 10 seconds of squeezing, 5 seconds of relaxing. That's the second one. Again, you can do that with a bench, you can do it with a kettlebell or any other object you want to do for that one. Third one, works similar muscles. This one you will create more space in the thoracic spine on the mid back. We're going to use the elbows on the, we're going to kneel in front of the bar and rest our elbows on the bar. Can be done with a bench as well. It's all about finding the angle that creates an overhead position. So for me, I'm going to be kneeling, elbows on the bar, hands together, and I'm going to push my head and chest through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press my elbows down into the bar. And as I'm doing that, I'm trying to push this part as far forward as I can, trying to create as much of an overhead position with my upper arm as possible. Same thing, press for 10 seconds, relax, go a bit further into the stretch. Press for 10 seconds, relax, go a little bit further. So from there, hands together, rib cage pull down, push through, squeeze for 10 seconds, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And as I relax, you will sink a little bit further into that one. And then the last one is one for strengthening the back of the shoulder blade. We call it an end range lift off. I love doing this. I do this before any upper body movement just because it's a good way to activate the scapula. And again, we're talking about strengthening our end range of motion. So just down on the floor, hands out in front. You're going to dip your chest down towards the floor. So again, we create an overhead position. When we get there, we're going to turn the hands so we go into external rotation. And a real small rep of just lifting the hand off the floor. and all the movement is coming from the back of the shoulder blade. It's going to be a very small range of motion. If I start bending my arm and just jolting and bring off the floor, I'm not going to hit that muscle, I'm going to use something else. So it's a very small range of motion. From there I'm going to come down, turn the hand up, lift off, hold for a second, come out of that as one. Try and keep the arm as straight as we can. And you do that for 10 reps on one hand, 10 reps on the other. So we've got 4 movements, work through that for 2 rounds. 10 reps there, 10 reps there, 10 reps here, and then 10 reps each side. If you work through that twice, it'll probably take about 10 minutes, and your shoulders will not only be more open, but all the muscles around the shoulder blades will be active, stable, and ready to lift overhead.